Percent of the time, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
It's not. It
Gets the people going.
You're now listening to Diagnonsense.
Look at all this damage!
With Justin Pendergrass and Kurt Honak.
You are a sad, strange little man.
Then we would just be idiots saying nonsense.
All right, dude, I got a question for you.
Okay, fine.
If you could fight any celebrity, who would it be?
Have we not answered this question yet?
No, I don't think that we have. And if we have, it's a good question because of what we're about to talk about. I want to know.
Oh, okay.
It's a good segue.
I see what you're setting up. Okay. I'm going to let Kurt go first so
Yeah.
I can think about this.
The first thing that came to mind was Johnny Cash, but I don't know.
Johnny Cash?
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
The man's dead.
Kurt's like, it's an easy win.
Oh, no.
He said, dude.
I mean, in his prime. How about
Johnny Cash in his prime.
in his prime?
Dang, I don't know if you could take him.
I don't know either. That's
Dude's
why
been
it'd be a
through
good
some
fight.
hard stuff. Have you ever heard his music?
It'd be a good fight. It's like you'd always want to fight that would be a
I think I would want to fight old Johnny Cash so I knew I could win. Like,
that
like
doesn't
hurt
seem right.
Johnny Cash.
So you like beating up on
Isaac's like, I want to fight him like 15 minutes before the end.
God.
Like, I don't want to kill him, but he should be on the way out.
Yeah, so you can
Johnny
win.
Cash. That's a man. Okay.
It's the first one that came to mind. I don't know why. I think it's something to do with just seems like a tough dude.
Yeah.
It's a good fight.
See, I think I need to go the opposite. Like, I would definitely want to fight someone that I don't. I want to be able to win. Like, I want to fight a celebrity that is just like I am going to win the fight. But then it also has to be someone that I don't like. I want a justified fight.
Yeah, no, I didn't pick Johnny Cash because I don't like Johnny Cash. It's like I like Johnny Cash.
Right.
So it seems like
Kurt's like, I just want to be able to punch him in the face.
Right.
I like him so much that I just want to hit him.
No.
Well,
It's more like
I feel like
just seems like it would be a good fight.
I feel like I would go after a celebrity that has a controversy too. So I'm right now, as of this moment, I'm kind of leaning like TJ Miller. Already has a major controversy under his belt, so I'm not the bad guy for fighting him. Plus, I think I'd have a shot. I might have a shot against TJ Miller. It'd probably be closer than but I wouldn't want to fight someone like Michael Cera, who's just like a beanstalk, and I'm just gonna win on him. Plus, I like Michael Cera, so it definitely has to be. I'm gonna go TJ Miller. That's gonna be my celebrity.
That's
fight.
your celebrity that you want to fight?
Yeah, I'd fight TJ Miller.
What about Will Smith? No.
No, he beat the crap out of me. Apparently, we all know.
Apparently.
Justin, where are you going?
That's where I was gonna come in. Actually, I think that I would fight Chris Rock.
No, you're just.
No, I'm just kidding. I was
kidding. You're just dead
Poor
meme.
Chris
One
Rock.
dead meme. Two, you're just trying to.
It's
tie
not
this
a
into Will
dead.
Smith.
It's not a dead
too
meme.
soon.
No.
He brought up Will Smith.
Too soon.
Too soon.
It's not too soon. He's
on.
literally
I-
still walking
I
around
wanna
the
s-
country
this is
talking
your-
about it.
This is your question. I need a serious answer.
Okay, so I know that I would lose this fight,
Okay.
but I really just want to be able to hit him one time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's Logan Paul. I would get completely destroyed. He just annoys me so much.
See, I'd love to.
I know
go
I would lose the
after
fight.
A bunch of these terrible people that are influencers, but the problem is now they're all boxing each other, so I'd have no chance.
No, right?
I'd just
See, and
lose.
look, I've been in probably one real fight. I've been in scuffles and
Right.
matches with my buddies, but I've never been in a real fight where I'm trying to hurt someone. I've been in one.
Yeah.
And, I know I would lose. against
Fighting
Logan
just
Paul.
hurts.
Logan
Fighting
Paul
just hurts.
actually is a good fighter,
Yeah.
and the problem is that he's super arrogant and rude
Right.
and
I think
very prideful.
I think Jake is probably the more arrogant and rude of the two of them, but yeah, both of them aren't great people. Okay, part two of the question: who in the workplace do you want to fight?
Oh God, easily Isaac.
Okay,
No, we're not answering that question.
good call. Good call.
It's both of you in this room, though.
Mosh pit.
Yeah.
Diagnonsense mosh pit.
Diagnonsense. Thank you guys for tuning in to Diagnonsense. I'm your host, Justin Pendergrass. I'm here with my co-host, Kurt Honak. How you doing, Kurt?
Doing great.
Dude, it's good to see you, man. I haven't seen you guys for a week and a half.
It's been like a month since we recorded also.
Yeah, that's true. This is
Is this going to be the first episode where we have a justifiable housekeeping segment to give kind of people an update?
On what?
On you.
Oh. So I put in my notice at my house about 2.5 months ago, and I'm actually currently working for myself. I started my own nonprofit as a ministry. My goal
is direct
is
competition to my house. It's called Your Place.
Yeah, it's called Your Place or Your House. Our house?
No.
Our house.
No, and
cue communist music.
it's my house, but it's spelled M-I. No, I started my own nonprofit. It's a ministry focused. It's with my music. I want to go out and I want to travel and I want to share the gospel of Jesus Christ in places that a lot of people aren't or having opportunity to. And I want to use my music to help kind of drive the bus. Me and my partner have had this on our hearts for a long time. And it's just been something that's been weighing heavy on me. I've known I'm supposed to do this for my whole life almost. I think I was 10 years old when I made goals and plans for stuff like this. And the Lord provided the means and I'm taking the leap. And so far, it has been. I took a week off, so far I've done nothing.
No, you did. You were telling me about stuff that you've been doing.
Well, that was just yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm working on this list to try to reach out to a bunch of churches and just ask for prayer and let them know what I'm out here doing. But really, what the whole focus is that I want to do prevention and substance abuse awareness biblically. I want to talk about Christ when I do it. I want to be able to do the same thing that me and Michael have always been doing, which is travel and talk about our lives and how we've overcome that through Jesus Christ and, you know, our walk with faith and how we never really found that relief until we did. Because I tried everything else. I never really found the relief in my life until I was following God in a true, authentic way.
Yeah.
So
sweet, man. Well,
yeah.
and the cool thing is that you can still be here for this and for stuff down the road, so you're still around. So yeah,
I will be. I'll be in here on Fridays, but that's something we'll talk about later.
Yeah, exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. In the other housekeeping.
Ooh, no,
news,
we're done. That was it.
Well, okay. Redemption and My Voice are coming back in October.
Oh,
so, yeah, we're going back to our full 4-show release schedule coming up in just a couple weeks. So that is exciting stuff. We've been really working on kind of what season 2 is going to look like for those shows. And then on October 8th, the next big event that my house is doing is Rotary Uncorked at the Menard Center. And if you want tickets or more information on that, super great time, big fundraiser for the organization. A ton of local restaurants out there with great food, beer and wine pairings with it, the silent auctions and live auctions and all that sort of stuff. So it's a great event. If you want tickets or more information, Rotary Uncorked, the Rotary Uncorked Sock Hop Facebook page or wasilarotary.com. I believe you can access it through there as well. Okay, now we can get started.
Hey, Kurt, what are we talking about today?
I can't talk about it.
All right, cool. Thank you guys for tuning in to Diagnonsense. No.
That's all the time we have.
Yeah,
for today.
that's all the time we have for today.
No, we are. Okay, so it's time to break the first 2 rules, Kurt.
Yeah, I'm going to need you to break the rules, Kurt.
Break the rules, Kurt.
First.
No, I need you to do
Break
it, Kurt.
the rules, Kurt.
Because if Brad Pitt hears about this, I don't want him to come after me.
I would not fight Brad Pitt.
No, can't.
How dedicated are you to Project Mayhem?
We're talking about Fight Club, the movie Fight Club.
But we're going to use this in a way that people don't know that we're talking about Fight Club.
No, I'm dropping that pretense immediately because I want us to have a productive recording session. I'm not sitting here for 2 hours. So
Come on.
really like dark movie. If you couldn't tell, this is going to be one of our weird random movie / media episodes because it's 5 episodes away from the last one.
Yeah, we just really enjoy throwing these in here every once in a while.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's easy content for you guys.
Dark movie. Like tonally, obviously, like definitely a little dark, but just like visually, the movie, the exposure is turned way, 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 way down. So I was sitting watching it inside this windowless room, and it was pouring rain outside, and I'd have to walk out into the light for like 30 minutes every, like.
It's a very
every
long
time
movie.
I was
What is
just-
it, 2 hours?
Like two and a half.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, Kurt, why are you making me watch this today? Like it's just.
I don't
pouring
know. I
rain
think that was
outside
my
and-
call.
Was it?
Yeah, because the other movie was like almost 40 minutes longer.
Oh, I think we should go back to that movie though.
Yeah,
we're
we'll
definitely
cover
going
that
back to
one eventually.
But
That'll be the next one.
this movie is hard to. I mean, really great movie. Obviously, like it got nominated for. Did it? I think it just got nominated for Best Picture the year that it came out. But it is. It's definitely. It's kind of like The Boys, where it's. I'm not recommending this movie for everyone. You know what I mean?
It's a cult classic though.
Oh,
It
for
definitely
sure.
is.
For sure.
And there's so many funny things that people come off of. It's got the ACCA winner, Best Adaptation Screenplay, Best Motion Picture nominee, Best Director nominee, Best Actor in Leading Role nominee. It's nominated for a lot of things. It's only won that first award though.
Okay.
I don't want to read through all these. There's
Yeah.
it's like 3 swipes down, like, and just let it roll. So
Well, and I've only seen it. So I saw it once when I was in high school, and then this was the second time I've watched it. But Kurt, you were telling me that you've watched this movie way, way more than I have.
Oh, I used to have it on almost like there was a year where I watched it like every week.
Kurt,
because it carried the tone
Kurt
of this
was
film.
studying.
No, the tone of this film, dude, carried me through. I had a really deep depression, and so like the film, it resonated with me on a lot of different levels. Like, right around high school age.
I'm
a
not
little
trying to
after high
poke.
school.
I'm not trying to poke, but do you think that this may have been a contributor to keeping you there?
No,
It's so dark.
It was cathartic, and some of the premise of the film is catharsis. But like for me, it was cathartic because it was like, God, I really identify with this film. You know, when I was watching it, it was.
So can you break down the plot of the movie in like 5 minutes or less? Just run through the basic premise of the movie for us really quick.
I think you can do it in less than a minute and a half.
Okay.
Try that.
I'm gonna do.
We'll go into details, but we just want you to give me the elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna put credit where credit's due. Like some of these ideas, I didn't realize years after watching the film. I watched some analysis on the film, and I picked up some ideas that I didn't even realize were present in the film.
Oh, you get more out of it the more you rewatch
basically, yeah, and I want to say something like when you first watch it, it's like a fun like action flick kind of thing or thriller kind of thing. But when you break it down, it's like there's a lot of symbolism. Basically, you know, the protagonist is like out of touch with his. There's a lot of duality in the film, right? And the film, I think there's a yin and yang table in the film that actually symbolically represents that. And so there's subconscious elements that your brain will pick up when watching it, where you don't really see it the first time, but when you go and rewatch it, it's like, oh, that makes sense. And really, it's about a dude who doesn't like, you know, he's out of balance, and there's a lot of duality in the film. There's like masculinity versus demasculinity. There's masculinity versus feminine, you know, like the more feminine side.
It opens with, so Edward Norton is the main protagonist.
Yeah.
And as far as like masculine versus femininity goes, it literally opens with him in a support group for men with prostate cancer.
Right.
And the person that he's talking to has like these big, like, he has, the man has breasts.
Meatloaf.
Yes. Yeah. His name is Meatloaf.
Oh my gosh.
He has prostate cancer, and the treatment that they put him on raises his testosterone levels, and that causes his body to produce more estrogen, and so he ends up with like this half man, half womanly body, and he's in this support group for it.
Well, it's about. I think the core of the film is about reconciling your masculinity.
Yeah,
you know. So
and it's setting up that theme for later. I mean, it's a great. That's one of those things. Like the first time I watched it, I was just like, oh, that's like a funny joke. Like he's in a support group for.
But yeah, watching it the second time, you definitely start to see it. So this is only the second time I've seen the movie too.
Yeah.
I think I watched it the first time when I was about 16.
Yeah, because I knew where the film was going, and I was like, oh, that's why he's in that group. Like, that's a theme for later, is that idea of feeling like your masculinity is taken away, right?
Yeah.
Which is really, it was a really good foreshadowing for the rest of the film right there off the bat. And I think that they do that a lot throughout the movie.
They do, yeah. That's why it resonates so much with, because I mean, the film from the beginning to the end is a psychological film.
Yes.
Yes.
Like, you know, so all the way at the end, and this is like, I love this film because I'm like always learning. I love films where I'm like learning years after I'm like learning little tidbits about it. And I went over the wiki synopsis because I've seen it so many times I can remember all the scenes. It's just,
you didn't even watch it?
yeah, no, I didn't need to rewatch it, but
That's fair.
I love the disassociation that, you know, he reconciles himself at the end of the film. He gets back his masculinity symbolically, and that's why he reconciles with the mental projection or like hallucination, whatever you want to call it, of Tyler Durden when at the end of the film. At the end of the film, which is like there's duality with himself and it's almost like a ego versus like id or super ego kind of thing, like a Freudian, like where he's trying to reconcile the person that he wants to be with the person that he is.
Yeah.
And when you see that at the end of the film, it's kind of like reconciled because the projection ends after he gets everything he wants, and like everything is supposed to be working, and Martha's like in love with him, and like, you know, but the irony is that like the civilization is collapsing, and so it's this weird thing where. And he's kind of like at the head of it, but it's this weird thing like, be careful what you wish for.
Ooh,
kind of ending, but at the same time, because it's almost like reconciling masculinity is kind of insane because it's not a rational sort of like, there's no rational end game to that, right? Like we're talking about something biological. And so that insanity of the film kind of spoke to me because it was like he's trying to reconcile something that can't rationally reconciled, and I identified with that. And so there's this piece, like he's trying his orderly, peaceful life. He knows in order to be happy, he has to like reconcile that masculinity, but that requires him to be unsafe, and it's kind of insane. And I guess I identified that with that in my teens because. You know, I had a lot of stability, but my life felt miserable, right? And so
that's very much how, like, even the first like whole 30 minutes is just setting that up so that they can take it down later. I mean, his job is he works for, I think it's like some sort of
insurance
outside
claim.
Well, yeah, he doesn't work directly for these car companies, but they're like some sort of outside like firm that goes to car wrecks, and they're like, what caused this car to like explode randomly? And he has this whole scene where he's talking about, so like, okay, if the cost of recalling all these cars and fixing them so that the engine doesn't explode is more than the cost it is just to settle with the families that die from these car crashes, then we never recall the vehicles. Yeah. And he travels around the country and goes to all these burnt out cars.
There's duality between consumerism and like anarchism there, but there's also duality between right and wrong, because what he knows what he's doing is not ethical. Right. Yeah. So there's so many layers of duality in that film.
He works this job. There's a whole scene where it's breaking down like his whole thing in life is he lives by himself. He's a single man, and he just buys like nice things for his nice apartment, but he's miserable the whole time.
Right, but he's miserable.
He works this like job that pays him well so he can buy all these nice things, and he's just caught in this monotonous cycle. And then what he finds is that scene I was referring to where he's in the support group, he starts going to just all these different types of support groups like Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, and then he gets into like the weird ones, like prostate, people for survivors of prostate cancer, and on and on and on. And he just sits in these groups and lies basically about how he has all of these problems so he can sit and watch all the other people that are actually miserable. and that's his
It connects him.
entertainment.
Well, it almost connects him back to his reality
Right.
in a way, because you see him like actually let things go and cry and feel emotion when he's just this kind of like real like
like that's
somber
the only,
character,
right?
But that's the only time you see him like
Have an emotion
express an emotion.
is when he's pretending to have like prostate cancer, and he's just crying to like these other people in the one-on-ones.
Yeah, it's almost like he has to have a reason to feel sad, but he doesn't really understand why he is
Right.
fully feeling this way.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing that I liked about the movie that I didn't notice the first time I watched it is if you pay really close attention, you'll see the flashes of Tyler earlier in the film just
Yeah.
appearing, like just little glimpses, like, and they're almost like you feel like you made them up in your mind.
And you almost wouldn't even like notice it or care unless you had already seen the movie before.
Right.
Like it's something that you have to rewatch it to really pick up on. And like 30 minutes into the movie is when, it's showing him like flying around the country, and it's already established before he meets the character of Tyler Durden that like he will frequently like imagine like terrible stuff happening. Like there's a scene where he imagines a plane hitting his plane and car crashes, and they're, briefly it will just flash to a just crazy, insane scene, but it's not real. It just flashes back to him sitting at his desk, and he's like, oh, my life still sucks. I'm still caught in this cycle. But then
because a car crash and a plane crash would help it not suck.
Right. It would give him anything in his life that would break the cycle of monotony.
Yeah.
Is how I was interpreting it. But then he meets Tyler on the plane. And Tyler is, so imagine Edward Norton sitting in like a collared shirt and a tie, and then imagine Brad Pitt sitting there in like a red leather jacket with his hair spiked up, and like he's got like the faded blonde hair because the movie came out in 1999, so he's like classic like cool guy in 1999.
Look,
right?
that's still cool.
1999 Chad.
Yeah. Yes. Like, yeah, it's like the Chad versus like the loser meme is like
right.
Tyler versus
Tyler is the doomer.
Yes.
and Brad Pitt's the Chad.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and like Tyler is just like living this crazy life, and he has all these super weird jobs, and like he works at a restaurant, and he does all the things that like that you would imagine like if you're working a service job and you're like, oh, I should like spit in someone's food or something like that because they treated me bad. But like he just actually does that. Like all
Tyler,
those things, all those what's it called where you just have one of those like random thoughts like, oh, I should just like
Right.
Intrusive thoughts.
Yeah. Tyler is a personification of like every intrusive thought that you have that's just like completely against society. Because you're like, I can't spit in that person.
He's
I
like
have a job. That's a terrible thing to do.
Antisocial polarization of Edward Norton.
Yes.
Yeah, of himself.
Yes.
Right. But like a mental projection that he's trying to reconcile. Yeah.
Right. But he's not a mental projection, Kurt. He's a
He's
real
a real
person.
dude.
He's a real person. They have lots of conversations back and forth, right?
Oh my God.
When you meet him, he's just some crazy dude. And then our main character gets back to his apartment, and his apartment like blew up while he was gone.
Right.
And everything, all the nice things that he spent his whole life working a terrible job that he hates so that he can make enough money to buy nice things, because that's what you're supposed to do, are just gone, and he has nothing.
You know what that reminds me of now that we're talking about it is when I've read about codependency and like people that are seeking intensity, it's like they self-sabotage.
Yeah.
And that's what that scene reminds me of, is like people who, and when you say his monotonous job, because he's seeking like, he's been demasculinized by consumerism, and he's basically just this cog, and he has there's no way for him to dominate his environment like from a masculine biological perspective, and so he becomes like, he's displaced, and so he needs to be needed, so he self-sabotages like to become this person, and that's why
what do you mean he self-sabotages, Kurt? His apartment just randomly blew up. That's what we're told at that point in the movie, is that just freak gas leak, all his stuff blew up, like random act of God, and now he has nothing.
Well, and so right, when you watch the film though, like I feel like it's almost like he's schizophrenic and he has this other person in his head, but it's like
It's almost like that.
how far away
if you've watched the movie, it's almost
right,
like
no,
that.
it looks like that, but like how far away is that when somebody's trying to like there's like they have to have a cognitive dissonance, or they have like, you know, they're conflicted between the person they want to be and the person that they are, though. You know what I mean? How much of that is actually far away from, but I love the way that they film it, though, because you have to interpret that, which is why it's so profound, and so, like it's such an interesting movie because
that's why it's so
not
good to
self-evident.
rewatch.
Yeah, it's not self-evident when you watch it.
Yeah, when you just watch it, it's like, oh man, that sucks. Well, now, so now he calls up the one person whose number he has because he doesn't have any friends, and he calls Tyler. Yeah, and they go out to the bar and they're having a conversation, and they go outside, and Tyler, Mr. Intrusive Thought Man, is like, hey man, just like punch me in the face. And he's like, what? Like, why would I do that? Tyler's like, I don't know. Like, haven't you ever just wanted to be like punched in the face just once, just to see what it feels like? And like, it just turns into them like out in the parking lot. They just beat the crap out of each other. And they're like, man, like I felt something like that that was against societal norms. Like it's not normal for us to just get in a fight and beat the crap out of each other. But like that let me break outside the monotony. Right. And this kind of spirals into, they start this thing that's called Fight Club down in the basement of this bar. And
it started out in the parking lot first.
It started in the parking lot, and it builds and it builds, and it gets down into this like underground, it's like an underground fighting ring. And there's all these rules for Fight Club, right? Rule number 1, don't talk about Fight Club. Rule number 2, you do not talk about Fight Club. And then it's like, rule number 3, if this is your first time at Fight Club, you have to fight. And like it makes all these guys feel alive, right?
Number 3 isn't that.
Okay, whatever, Justin. I didn't realize you knew the 10 Commandments of Fight Club perfectly.
I think
I've only seen the movie twice.
Yeah,
but
you're wrong. So.
But it becomes this thing that they like look forward to because it's outside the monotony of their normal, regular, everyday life. And like they'll run into each other in public, like at a restaurant or walking down the street, and like they know that like they're part of this like underground organization. And how I interpreted it, I'd be curious for your opinion on this, Kurt, is like the thrill of it is, one, it is restoring their masculinity, right? Like they feel like
symbolically, yes.
Right. It's returning them to their roots of like, I'm a man, and a man's job is to fight and be a warrior, and you know, blah,
symbolically, blah. Yes, I am the dominating force in my environment. Yeah.
Right. And then also, which by the way, let me clarify, not a great thing. Like I'm not saying that the movie doesn't even necessarily say that like this is good. Like go beat the crap out of each other so you can feel manly. But like they
but it speaks to something in young men, right? It spoke to me because I was suicidal and watching this film, and it was like, man, I feel like kind of like that guy driving the car off the cliff or whatever. It was like I kind of feel like that because my life, like I've been displaced. Like the society doesn't really need me. But there's a thrill in reestablishing the dominance. And so as a young man, that really spoke to me because of how depressed I was. And so I really identified with the film on a lot of different levels.
Right. And the problem, I think, when you're watching the movie, like it doesn't explicitly say like, this is what's right, this is what's wrong, but it will show you that the problem with this mentality is it continues to spiral and spiral. And now all of a sudden they're not doing a fight club anymore to make themselves feel like men and to get like all this like suppressed like emotions out by beating each other up. Now they're going to take down the whole, all of society.
Which is
it starts out first with them going out in public and saying, okay, now you got to get a fight in public and lose.
Yes.
Go out in public, start a fight and lose.
Right.
And it does this whole like little.
They're just trying to like.
My favorite one is the one where the guy picks a fight with the priest.
Yeah. And the priest is like, what are you doing? And like he just keeps like pushing him, and finally the priest like throws like this wimpy little punch, and the dude like sits there, and he pushes him again, and the priest like throws this wimpy little punch, and it just keeps escalating, and the priest is on top of him, beating the crap out of him.
It goes from being this like
because that's against the societal
almost
norm,
like
right?
almost like an innocence, like as much as it could have been innocent, right? Almost to that extreme, where it quickly progresses into more of a cult.
Yeah, because the goal with like picking a fight with the priest is like, so now not only am I choosing to break societal norms, how can I make other people around me like,
how can I challenge it everywhere else?
Yes, how can I challenge everyone else to like go against society?
Well, and then who shows up to the fight later? Doesn't the priest show up later?
Yeah, I think
to the
so.
fight club.
Yeah.
Like, so those people who are they're almost as if it's like a recruiting thing,
right?
Without meaning to, because now the priest is like, man, I loved that.
Yeah, and eventually, they start this probably like anarchist in the truest sense of the word. Like they don't care about, like their goal isn't to murder people. In fact, the movie later explicitly states like, we did all this stuff to make sure that people are protected and we don't have any like civilian casualties.
Right.
Like they don't care about taking down one individual or like the government because they disagree with this politician. Like they just want to tear it all down and like let humanity give into their most their most intrusive
Primal,
urges. Right.
Primal. I would say anarchist, but even the masculinity pecking order of the like cult itself is like a form of order. So it's like this ironic, I wanted to say anarchist, but then I was like, there's actually order in the masculinity itself. That's a biological order.
And almost like pure socialism, because they have one, with the exception of they have one leader, right, who is Tyler. Tyler is their leader, and but they're all equal. They don't see it's like a respect thing. Yeah. Like you're willing to fight, you're willing to fight and get physically pushed to the very edge of what you can take as a person. And because of that, like we are all equal. Like we're all equal because we've all
cult
gone
of masculinity. Yeah.
Yeah. Not in a great way. Not in a great way as we'll find out.
But it reminds me of Ernest Becker. I think it was Denial of Death, which is a book about hero systems. I believe that's where this came from. I read he's got an Escape from Evil is what I read. I haven't read Denial of Death yet, but I think that's where this comes from, where he talks about hero systems and how like if man's goal is to become immortal, to transcend death, then he must create a hero system. And that's essentially what wars are, is their hero system. So like Edward Norton's character, right, or Tyler Durden, both of them, because they're the same person.
Whoa, what?
They have to create this hero system to transcend, for their masculinity to transcend consumerism. And that's essentially what this cult is, right? And it's just so fascinating the way
transcendence of the consumer mentality.
Well, masculinity over consumerism,
right.
Yeah.
And okay, so you just gave probably the biggest spoiler for the movie is like probably about 2/3 or like 3. It's really towards the end of the movie.
Yeah.
That like, so Edward Norton's character, he's like kind of noticing all this weird stuff, like the girl that he likes and Tyler, the Brad Pitt character, they're never in the same room. And, Tyler, he's never talking when Tyler is, and as this like weird, like masculinity cult forms, like everyone, they're talking about Project Mayhem, right? Their whole secret plan to take down the evil consumerists. And he keeps asking them questions about it. And he's like, hey, what's Project Mayhem? They're like, sir, we don't talk about Project Mayhem. And they're deferring to Edward Norton's character and asking him like, wait, why don't you know about this stuff? Like, is this a test? Like, this is what you told us. And he slowly puts 2 and 2 together that Tyler Durden, Brad's Pitt character, is actually him. Everything that Tyler has done, like
does those flashbacks where he's punching himself in the
like
face in the parking lot.
The fight of him versus Tyler at the beginning, it flashes back to like what
Him
the
sitting on
objective
the
reality
plane.
is, and he's just punching himself and like talking to himself, and
On the plane, he's talking to himself. The people are walking by and thinking he's crazy.
Right.
Like he's just sitting there having a whole conversation.
right. And so then this, and I need to rewatch this movie again because I can't fully wrap my head around. This is where he, as Edward Norton, and not the character of Tyler Durden, because they are the same person,
Right.
but their belief systems are different.
That's where I see that he begins to reconcile himself.
Right.
And so he's like having conflicts about.
He's like, no, I don't want to tear down society. Like, people are going
Right.
to.
That's almost like when a
ruined.
dictator becomes like, they get into power, and it's like, then like, is there a certain like level of, oh my God, I've created this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
So he's going out and he's flying to all these places that quote unquote
Right,
Tyler flew to, and he's showing up and they're just like, oh, nice to see you again. And he's like, no, like, what are you doing? They're like, don't worry, sir. The plan's going into all lined up. And he's like, what plan? No, stop the plan. No plan. And
it's like a dictator whose orders got misconstrued, and now he doesn't want to live in the reality that he's created.
right. And he like goes to the police and he like is trying to tell people these information, but
The cops are in on it.
The cops are in on it, and they're just like, don't worry, sir, everything's gonna be all right. He's like, no, like, you need to stop this. And they're like, no, like, we're just gonna like torture you now. And he's like, no, don't. Okay, wait, if I'm in charge of you, like, don't torture me. And they're like, you said that you'd say that, but we're just gonna go ahead with it. He's like, what? Like,
He's a victim of his own.
He's a victim of his
creation.
own creation that his ego has created, right? And finally, it ends with him going to this building. The overall plan is the secret group that has burrowed their way into every major city, into all aspects of society. They're going to blow up every credit union, because if every credit union's computer systems are, now we have the cloud. The cloud wasn't around in 1999, so who knows what would actually happen. Right, but if they blow up every credit union and every bank like simultaneously, then everyone's debt will return to zero and everyone will start on a level playing field, right? That's their grand plan, which was a thing that could happen in 1999. It would still be catastrophic now, but I don't think it would be quite as like, like world changing. Also, I don't think that this is a very realistic scenario.
Right.
I don't think that it's possible. What do I know? It could be Illuminati, conspiracy theories. Who knows? Yeah. But him and Tyler, quote unquote, because at this point Tyler is showing up, and Tyler's just like, dude, like, I'm you. And he's like, yeah, I know you're me, but tell me how to stop this. And he's like, tell me how to stop what? This is you making me say the things that you think that I'm saying, but you're mentally, like, you're sick, dude. Like, your brain isn't right. Like, I'm just you. And it's this whole thing where it's another character that we're seeing on screen is telling now, like, the it's behind the curtain, right? Like the Wizard of Oz is revealed, and he's just like, man, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, this is all you controlling it. And it flashes between Tyler being on screen, like kicking him down the stairs to stop his plan, and then him just like throwing himself down the stairs.
It's almost like when you got that voice in your head when you're about to do something good, or you're about to do something maybe that's for yourself that maybe you feel like your ego's like, I don't know if that's the most righteous thing to do.
Right.
Or where it's like there's that voice in your head, and that's where he's at. He's like trying to reconcile, like, which part of me is the part that I want to be if I become the leader of the world or whatever. In Fight Club he ends up as, if I become the leader of the world but it destroys the world, and that world isn't the world I want to live in, do I still want to be this crazy person? You know what I mean? It's like that's the battle with masculinity, because why? Because because in order for you to become a dominant force in your environment, you have to dominate. And but if that creates a world you don't want to live in because you have to dominate to become that force, then it's this conundrum.
It's a paradox,
like
right?
Paradox.
Like and there's all these themes, right? There's like consumerism versus masculinity, and there's masculinity versus being the toxic masculinity versus just being a good person, what we'd consider to be like a good person. But if being a good person, if conforming to society makes you miserable, then what's right? Like,
well, not just that it's miserable, but it actually devalues and debases him as a human being, and also kind of puts him in this paradox where he's like, you know, the parts that Martha Singer loves about him, I think, are more Tyler Durden. So that's where he's at this paradox, right? Where he's like, well, how do I get the things that I want without becoming the thing that I don't want to be?
Right. It's this idea of he wants to be more of a quote unquote man, right? Like he wants to feel respected. And I think there's a lot of I was having this conversation with someone a couple weeks ago, and it's at the core of every man. Like, what does every man want to be? Like, every man wants to be respected. They want to feel respected by others. They want to be able to respect themselves, right? Yeah. And he, at the beginning of the movie, he feels no respect.
Towards himself.
He doesn't even respect himself, right? He feels like no one else respects him for what he does, and he doesn't respect himself as a person. Yeah. And so he starts the Fight Club. He manifests this other person as like, man, this guy is so cool. He just does whatever he wants, and that's what I want to be like. I respect that. But by the end of the movie, he realizes, like, I don't want, like, this is not what I want to be. How I've gone so far in the other direction that now I don't respect myself because I view myself as a menace to society, as someone that is a bad person. And how do I feel? How do I get to a point where I'm respected by others without losing myself as a person?
Right. And I'm not saying this is a great film to follow what, you know, Edward Norton's character is doing.
I don't think you're supposed to.
It's a great coming of age film for men, because it's like, how do you balance all that stuff? How do you, because it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Right. I kind of see it as a warning. Like,
kind of.
This is what, at the end of the movie, by the way, it's revealed that, like, first it's revealed like, oh yeah, Tyler blew up my apartment. And then like 30 minutes later, you're like, oh wait, I was Tyler. I blew up my own apartment. like he has this moment where he's like, Tyler's the reason like all these bad things to happen to me. Like, man, you screwed me over. And then he's like, oh wait, no, I screwed myself over. I self-sabotaged so that I could feel like more of a man, because I wanted to get rid of all my earthly possessions. And
I think that's why it resonates with so many people, because it's such you can identify with the film, I think, on a lot of different levels. So.
Right. And at the end of the film, just, you know, all the banks blow up. He fully embraces like the character of Tyler, and he ends up, because of, you know, in that final confrontation with Tyler's pointing a gun at him, and he's just like, wait, like, Tyler isn't real. I'm pointing the gun at myself, and the only way to kill Tyler, to kill this toxic masculinity, is to kill myself, because I am now that person.
Exactly.
And so that's how I see it being, showing what the dangers of that is. Like, if you go too far down that road to feel like a man, you end up becoming a thing that you hate, where the only way to stop the thing that you hate is to stop yourself, because you've transitioned into that point.
Exactly. And so there's almost like a symbolic death once he realizes that, right? Because he almost like shoots himself, but he like shoots it out of his cheek or whatever.
Yeah, he shoots through his cheek, and then he stands up and he's fine.
And Martha's like, oh my God, are you okay?
He's just like, I'm fine. Because I'm a man. Right. And then all the buildings blow up, and the song, what's the song?
The Pixie song.
Yeah, the Pixie song. Where is my mind? Where is my mind? And all the buildings blow up, fade to credits. And that's just where it ends. Like, and you don't get to see anything like that, because at the end of the day, it's not about this dystopian world where society completely breaks down, right? It's about his It's about his journey
Right.
and what he's become as a person.
Yeah.
And so when you see where he's become, it doesn't matter where society is. It's his story. Yeah. I mean, I could watch, we could watch it every week from now till the end of the year. And no, trust me, Justin, I can't do it either. But I feel like we could talk about it every week, and every week we'd talk about something slightly different as far as the themes that we've picked up.
Yeah, really rich film, and
I mean, but that idea of because it's not wrong to want to be respected. It's not wrong to be tough. It's not wrong to be to want to be a man or like you were saying, Kurt, like a hero, right? Like that
Right.
person on a hill, the knight in shining armor. But if you do that without love and empathy and respect for others, then this is ultimately where you end up, where it's almost like a Lord of the Flies scenario, right? Like it's just about strength and nothing else.
Well, I think you just, as a male, you have to just realize the meta of masculinity, and that's that, like, when the world doesn't need dictators and tyrants and physical force anymore, then you get cannibalized into that system.
Yeah.
Just like everybody that you've stepped on to get up into power, right? And so there's an irony sort of about that film that resonated with me on a lot of different levels. But
yeah,
what do you think, Justin? Do you have any closing thoughts on that, or?
Overall, I think that this movie there's a lot to unpack, and that's why I really wanted us to talk about it. And I like your guys' perspective on a lot of the things. It's a similar perspective as mine. I liked a lot of they tried to have some humor in it, and I think that, that was the parts that I appreciated because it lightened up some of the tones.
I did genuinely laugh multiple times while rewatching,
right.
which is
there's humor in there.
And that's another interesting dichotomy.
My favorite thing is and it's probably really cruel, is that when the girl's over at the house and he's just like, "Why are you here?" And she's so confused,
and it's because he is
he doesn't know,
dating her and hooking up with her,
but doesn't know that he's dating her and hooking up with her
because Tyler is.
Yes,
because he perceives as I want to be the type of person that just goes out with this girl. At the beginning of the movie, he meets her and he's super nervous and he's like, "I want nothing to do with you," but deep down, he's like, that's who I want to be with. I want to be this macho man. And so she's showing up.
Save her, yeah.
And he's just like, "Why are you here?" And she's just like, What do you mean? You invited me over here. And he's like,
right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking
crazy.
about. Who are you?
She's like, "Fine, screw you then. I don't want to be with you." And he just proceeds and finds out oh my gosh, no, I was with that person. I was actively pursuing her. So,
overall, guys, I really like this movie. If you're not afraid to watch stuff that's rated R and has a darker tone, then definitely check it out. But be careful, Michelle.
Michelle, don't watch this movie. This is one of those movies where there are parts where I'm like, this is horrible, but it's a movie that shows you things that are graphic or that are that are just horrible things to happen to people, because it's all doing it in the service of a message and a story, right?
No, and I think that's so great.
Yeah, I respect movies that do that. I want to watch pieces of media that do that, because it
and
it
I
gives
want
me
to
a
talk
new
about more
perspective
of these
on
kind of
things.
movies. I'd like to do the Joker movie at some point. I know we've done Batman,
gosh,
but
yeah.
that
I
Joker
do.
movie is so different and out of the box.
Yeah.
If you guys have any movies you'd like us to talk about that are
send 'em
mental
in.
health
Send them
related,
into my email.
Send them in to Isaac's email. Can you give him that email real quick?
Isaac, ISAAC at myhousematsu.org. We're definitely going to get an email from my mom saying, you guys should watch a VeggieTales movie. I'm tired of you talking about movies that I don't want
There's
to
no
watch.
mental
So
health problems in VeggieTales. It's always just some...
That's not true.
That's true.
That's
We
not
could
true.
probably
There's gotta
break
be-
down
there's
some
at least
deep...
one movie that...
That's true. Bob is always the voice of reason.
I think if Bob was in Fight Club, Bob would discover some things about himself. Bob
That's
the
true.
Tomato of VeggieTales
Bob the
would
Tomato.
be a great candidate for Fight Club. because he's always so rational, right?
Look, and if we're talking to tomatoes, are we actually insane?
Ooh. Maybe the VeggieTales are a projection of our own id.
Oh my gosh.
VeggieTales were never real.
VeggieTales are anarchy.
Oh gosh. Anarchist VeggieTales.
They do like a Simpsons reboot of VeggieTales. No.
I'm glad we had this conversation.
Yeah, me too. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in to Diagnonsense. I'm your host, Justin Pendergrass. I'm here with my co-host, Kurt Honak. Kurt, you got any closing thoughts?
If you have not, this is another raunchy one, but if you haven't watched Cyberpunk Edgerunners, that is ripping. So just throwing it out there.
Is it pretty metal, Kurt?
It's pretty metal.
It's pretty metal.
Is it metal?
Yeah, it's fair warning though. It's growing up themes in there.
Oh.
Justin wants us to watch Lord of the Rings, but
I only want you guys to watch it so I have people to talk to about it. I like it. I don't have a lot of hate for it. It's actually not bad.
What is it? I mean, but
it's Lord of the Rings, dude.
it's Lord of the Rings, but like I didn't like The Hobbit that much. Like
No,
I'd rather
but
just
I'll
watch
tell you
the
this.
actual Lord of the Rings movies.
The Hobbit was worse.
Okay.
For me, personally, I think The Hobbit was some of the worst.